Hi, I'm William Cook, and this is week two's discussion board. This week I'm going to be further looking at my studies of David Crockett. Specifically, I'm going to be looking at David Crockett and his relationship with President Andrew Jackson. Even more specifically, the Indian Removal Act that ultimately led to David Crockett's fall in politics, where he would eventually go to the Alamo and meet his fate. Now, David Crockett and Andrew Jackson have a very long and complicated roller coaster of a history. They initially fought together during the Creek Wars, also known as the Creek Indian Wars or the Creek Civil War. And what had happened was the Creek tribe had attacked and essentially slaughtered a large group of Americans, which outraged both David Crockett and Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson called for more troops and request permission to advance towards them in retaliation. David Crockett ultimately volunteered for this, citing that he felt what was happening next was that they would be going after the women and children of his community, and it would start to hit home. So he wanted to stop it. They were successful in their fight. David Crockett documents this in his own journals and his own letters, his recollection of these events. In the movie The Alamo, Billy Bob Thornton actually does a great monologue based off of the letters of David Crockett. It's definitely worth something to for entertainment. He does an amazing job at portraying David Crockett's emotions. The sources I looked at: American Indian Removal Beyond the Removal Act by John P. Bose. He went into heavy detail about the harsh reality and the constitutional question and the power that was behind the Indian Removal Act. This was essentially to take, well, not essentially, it was to take tribes that are east of the Mississippi, remove them to the west of the Mississippi, and give this land to Americans. Now, some of the stories that come from this are the Trail of Tears, where the Cherokee tried to fight this bill and then were forcibly removed, murdering a large population of the Cherokee tribe. Now, David Crockett, in his letters, is another source I drew from, the letters of David Crockett. He talks about this specifically. He refers to himself as he's not a dog, not one of Andrew Jackson's dogs, does not wear a collar with the name Andrew Jackson on it, which he opposed this bill heavily and was bullied and was forcibly taken out of contention for re-election. Andrew Jackson and the media and everyone saw that David Crockett was going to be a thorn in the side of Andrew Jackson's plans and used every tool they had, namely the media and other politics, to just paint this poor image of David Crockett, somebody who's losing his countrymen and is not looking out for what's best. Tim Allen Garrison wrote The Sixth Inevitability and the Southern Opposition to Indian Removal Act, drew heavily from Andrew Jackson's newspaper articles posted about David Crockett and David Crockett's journal entries in response. There was a very public feud is what I'm getting at here. Everything, fortunately for historians, is public. There's a famous speech that David Crockett had standing up against the Indian Removal Act. Megan Taylor Shockley wrote King of the Wild Frontier versus King Andrew, which is a great metaphor for how these two went against each other. David Crockett's legend versus this very powerful, the most powerful individual in America at the time. They pull from, again, the same sources. David Crockett's letters are a huge source for historians. One he had talked about is how he had his constituents to settle with when going against the Indian Removal Act, but he also had a settlement to make at the bar of his God. A nice clue to how David Crockett voted with his conscience and would not be bullied out by Andrew Jackson.